Welcome back, everyone. In this video, I'm sewing a Raglan shirt from this men's vintage Kwik Sew pattern. I was really excited to get this pattern in the mail yesterday because I've got all these knit fabrics in my stash that I can use to make some long sleeve shirts for the colder weather. I have several of these Kwik Sew patterns and I really like them because the designs are non-complicated and straightforward, leaving lots of opportunity to use fun fabrics or embellish the finished garment. Most of the fabric I have here was purchased from Fabric Mart, which is one of my favorite online fabric stores. And these black and white rib knits, which I plan to use for the neck bands and the cuffs on some of these shirts, was purchased from Amazon. It looks like my size on this pattern is a medium, so that's what I'm going to try sewing up first. And then if I decide I want a slimmer fit later, I can always go back and trim down the pattern to a small. I think one of the hardest things to learn for new sewers is how to insert sleeves, because normally you are matching together two different curves, which can be really challenging. Raglan shirts are a great beginner project because the sleeves are really easy. You can see that where the sleeve meets the front and the back here, this line is actually totally straight, so it's going to be really easy to sew this together. It's also going to be really easy to match stripes like the illustration shows. Since this fabric has this really wide white area on the edges, I think I'm just going to trim this off so that when I lay out my fabric with folds in it, it will be easier to match up the stripes. This white scrap isn't a complete waste though. I'll save this to use for test stitching my serger. I did pre-wash this fabric because it's cotton jersey and I wanted to prevent as much shrinkage as possible after sewing up the finished shirt. Something you need to keep in mind with stripe fabrics is that it's always going to require more yardage than a all-over print or a solid color would. So you're going to have to purchase more than the pattern indicates. Dealing with this patch pocket is probably one of the hardest parts of this project because flimsy jersey knit is just not that easy to get real crisp edges. So I'm going to use a fabric glue stick to temporarily stick some things down to make this a little easier. And this will wash away the first time this shirt gets washed. Alright, I've probably spent about 2 hours now trying to get this pocket absolutely perfect, and it is a real challenge, even with the fabric glue stick. And I decided to take it off, and I still can't get it quite right. So I'm making an executive decision to interface the whole pocket, and hopefully that will give it enough stiffness to really get it perfect. I'm not gonna lie, putting that pocket on was a real challenge, but I think now I've got it good enough. What I ended up doing was interfacing the pocket using a fabric glue stick, putting a fresh needle in my machine, and also using the even feed function on my machine. And all those things together did make a difference, and it's probably going to be really fast sewing up the rest of the shirt compared to getting this pocket perfect. I really want to make sure that these stripes match up really well, so I'm using sewing clips at every one of the spots where the stripes should match. Attaching these cuffs is a really tight fit, so I removed this piece so that I can use the free arm of my serger. And I've kind of just got it stuck right on here. It's pretty snug, so I'm going to have to help push this along. I don't think the feed dogs will be quite strong enough to pull this through on its own. That was such a tight fit. Something I might consider doing on the next shirt I make is attaching the cuff before I stitch the underarm seam and side seam, which isn't quite as nice of a finish, but that's how you will see it done all the time on store-bought clothing anyway. Now that I've got the neckband and the cuffs attached, something that I'm going to do that's optional is I'm going to stitch this seam allowance right here down flat. That's not something the sewing pattern instructions tell you to do. It's just something that I think makes a better finish. So you have a nice, flat, comfortable seam around the cuffs and the neckband. I'm going to stitch it to the shirt, not to the band. I'm using matching thread on top and a white thread in the bobbin. So as I stitch this, I'm spreading this apart gently, and I'm feeling to make sure that the seam allowance is laying down flat on this side right here. So now you can see from the front, I've got matching stitching along this edge. It also matches on the inside, and it's stitched down nice and flat. If you had a cover stitch machine, that might be a good thing to use here, but I don't, so I'm just using this stitched out zigzag. I'm not feeling really complicated today, so I'm just going to use the same stitched out zigzag and matching thread to do the hem as well. Using the different bobbin and top thread is kind of an unusual thing to do, but I think I like how it looks. I just got this shirt finished. It's definitely got kind of a retro look, but overall I really like it. It's really comfortable, and after I got the pocket attached, it was a really easy sew. So I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to come back and make a few more of these and see if I can try out some other techniques to change them up a bit. I put some thought into it, and for my next version of the shirt, I'm going to do a black torso with pink sleeves, and I'm going to use this green thread to stitch down the sleeve seams. And on the pocket, I'm going to embroider this funky frog in some bright colors. It took me a little while to figure out how exactly I wanted to do the embroidery because I'm a little worried about the jersey knit stretching out. So I hooped a piece of fabric with some stabilizer, and then after the embroidery is done, I'm going to use this window that I made of the pocket to cut out the embroidery to make sure I get the placement right, and also to make sure I have enough seam allowance left over so that I can attach the pocket. Stitching this design took about 45 minutes, and I purchased it from Embroidery Library, which is where I get most of my embroidery designs. Fair warning, if you're considering getting an embroidery machine, it's super addictive and you'll want to put embroidery on everything, so don't say I didn't warn you. I made a last-minute decision to add some lightweight interfacing to the back of this pocket, mainly because I struggled so much with the first one, and now that I've spent all this time embroidering this frog, I want it to attach to my shirt easily. Doing an embroidered jersey knit pocket is definitely no joke, and this one didn't turn out 100% perfect, but I'm going to call it good enough. I stitched the sleeve seam allowances down flat using this decorative stitch I found on my sewing machine. It took a really long time to stitch these out, and one of the seams did get slightly wavy that I mostly fixed by pressing it, but it's kind of a fun look, and overall I'm happy with how it turned out. So this shirt definitely has some strong 90s vibes, which I didn't intend, but it's really fun and it's totally unique, and I think it turned out great overall. So I'm going to make just one more shirt for this video, so let's see how that one turns out. The last one I'm going to make is going to use this wonderful Greek key fabric, and I'm going to leave the pocket off because this is a really loose knit. I found this pattern to be a simple yet satisfying sew with lots of possibilities for using fun print fabrics or embellishing. The Raglan sleeve makes it approachable for sewers of all skill levels, and it's definitely one I'll be sewing up again soon. My key takeaway from this sewing project is that a simple pattern can go a long way with a little creativity and some different fabrics. I hope you enjoyed sewing with me today. Make sure you like and subscribe because in the next video we're making embroidered Christmas ornaments. In the meantime, happy sewing, and I'll see you in the next video.